think we're good. Okay, well, thank you guys for braving the storm. I definitely appreciate it, and we'll try to be respectful of everyone's time, and as Andrea just mentioned, making sure that we get all of you guys home before it gets too icy out there on the road. So we are, this is just basically a Q&A type thing in order to be able to talk with you guys about some of the programming changes that we're going to have for next year. This is designed to be more of a conversation and really sort of informal and going back and forth. Come on in. So I certainly do not have all of the answers. Instead, I am the messenger and trying to give as much information as I have right now and different perspectives. So there may be some questions that you'll ask that we're in the process of working through. And then also what I'm trying to do with all this communication is to communicate as often as possible about everything that's happening, but the downside of that communication angle is that sometimes things change, and so rather than waiting until the very end when we have this sort of perfect plan put together that we unveil in front of you with this red carpet, instead we're really wanting to involve everybody in the conversation as we're going forward. So that's the intention there. But I would love to start off by just going around and having everybody introduce themselves because, well, I know your names and who you're connected with and all of that. You guys may not know each other. So, Jen, we'll start with you maybe.
My name is Jen Bartholomew, and I started working as the development director here last year. But before that, I've been a parent. All three of my kids went through Great Beginnings, and so I've kind of been on every role from volunteering to helping with the chocolate mousse and different things. So I fell in love with the school and then just have continued to be here. So.
And I'm Jamie, and I'm in my 10th year here teaching, but before that I also had two girls that went through Great Beginnings. They're almost 14 and 16 now, so that's a while ago. I'm the kindergarten teacher and then the assistant head of school.
Jonathan Koch. We have one student here, Carter.
Sophia Koch. We have one student, Carter, but we'll have our second coming here in a year and a half.
Amber, and I have two students currently, one in the friendship room and then one in the rainbow room. And my husband actually went to Great Beginnings as a child as well.
I'm Blair Yarashak. My daughter is Liv. She's in the rainbow room, and we have a son, Dean, who is 1. So he sometimes comes to pick up.
Tara Goldberg. Our son Jules is in friendship room, and our son Alden is in the rainbow room.
I'm Josh, and I've got one son, Flynn, and 3-year-old, and then hopefully we'll have a young one named Ridge joining you in a couple of years.
I'm Emily, I'm Eric's wife and Josh's wife's cousin, and so Jules and Alden.
I'm Elise, and I have two here right now. I have Bo in the rainbow room and Grace, Jimmy in the sunshine room, and Grace is my third, and she's in kindergarten now. But I've had 3 here.
And I'm Michael, and I've been working with Great Beginnings for 10 years, and actually all 3 of my kiddos went to Great Beginnings as well.
And you have Bentley.
Oh yeah, and I have a dog in Bentley.
Sort of a star of all of that. And then for those of you who don't know, I started my involvement with the school. I have 2 boys who came through the school. So I initially started with the school. Well, last night I went to the high school orientation. So now I'm about to catch up with some of these guys. And they were introducing us to the student body that's 160 teachers and 2,300 students at Bozeman High School right now. So it was a little overwhelming. But so that's where, but they started here when they were little guys. And then I was here as a parent and then joined the board of directors when Victoria was the head of school. And then I was on the board for, I think, about 4 years. And then when Victoria decided to step down, then I initially just came into the position of head of school as the interim director.
the board was very interested in doing an expansion vision at that time and trying to figure out how we could continue to serve the needs of all of our families. And so they hired me with the idea that I would be able to go through with that. This actually, the Rainbow Room was my first project that I did with all the teachers. And at the time, this was incredibly controversial. We had some teachers who left because of the addition of toddlers into our program. We had some families that left because they said that it was going to be the end of Great Beginnings. And now, as you can see, I don't know how many of you are on the waiting list, but we can't even accommodate all of the siblings for all the families that we have within that magical room. So it's amazing to see how those things have changed. So with that, I'm going to back up. I'll give you guys a little bit of history just to sort of fill you in on where we're at, and then I just figure we'll just open it up and can answer any questions that you have. The sort of expansion history of the school, or I guess where the school sort of grown from. The school's 34 years old, so I can start at the beginning and let you know that we were initially with Eagle Mount, and then a group of parents in 2000 purchased this school or this house at that time. And so then the school sort of went through various growing pains depending on what was happening with the economy in the school. It's been as small as one classroom, 15 children with 2 teachers, and as large as we have between summer camp and then our families, 100 plus families on 2 different campuses right now and still growing. So we are, I think that some of the growing pains that we're having are the same growing pains that Bozeman's having. We're trying to keep up as fast as we can, and we're trying to do it in a way that feels really authentic to us and still feels like Great Beginnings. So about 5 years ago, we started to dream really big. Our teachers had a meeting where they decided that to create this big, hairy, audacious goal to become the most sought-after school in Western Montana. So at the time, weren't you guys, was it one classroom then when you, or was it one of the smaller
I think
ones?
we were 2 by then.
Okay. But so it was this huge, big thing, and sort of careful what you wish for, because then it's been a really lovely process since then as the school's grown. So we partnered a few years ago with the MSU School of Architecture. We had 60 of their design studio students dreaming up all these incredible campuses and the different things we could do for growing to a larger vision. We have been under contract for 3 separate pieces of property now in order to be able to grow into a larger piece, and for various stories that I can bore you with if you ever want to hear them. Things have sort of fallen apart for those different pieces, either through zoning requirements or for different requirements with the last one. We finally were able to get enough money together in order to be able to meet with the 40 acres that we had, and there was a landowner who said that he would sell the 40 acres to us for $600,000, and we finally sort of patched the whole thing together, and by the time we sat down with him, the price was $750,000. So we just can't keep up. We're trying really hard. So what we're doing in the interim is that we're renting space, and so that's what happened 2 years ago with the addition of the Foothills campus. We had so many families on the waiting list who couldn't get into the school, and one of the things that the board of directors is really committed to doing is that we don't want to become an elite school where all of a sudden here's some of these nightmare stories from other communities where the things that parents will do in order to be able to find quality care for their children. So in trying to balance that out, we opened up the Foothills classroom. It's a really lovely partnership that we have with the church up there in renting out their space. And what we found now, and this is what Michael will attest to, our latest problem then loops all the way full circle in the fact that we have so many families at the within the Rainbow Room that we can't house them all. So
I'm supposed to see if it's on. I don't know how this works.
It's on, and we're just recording it. I know. So
I just keep getting texting me. Can't hear it.
And just tell them we're going to record it, and we'll send out the recording. Because otherwise, we're going to spend the whole time messing around with it. And
yeah.
unfortunately.
Okay, that's good.
I know we've got it recorded, so if that feels good to you
I
guys.
was just letting you know.
Okay, thank you. Great. All right, so that's kind of it in a nutshell.
What do you mean with that last sentence, that you have so many kids in the rainbow room that you can't
Oh, sorry.
house them?
I was interrupted.
Okay.
So right now, and I'll let Michael speak specifically to this because she's the one who has her magical spreadsheet that she drives behind the scenes of who goes where and what Tuesday you can drop off and if you can add a day. But we have the 10 children that are there that are within that, within the Rainbow Room, but we have so many families right now who are on the waiting list that the children are aging out before we're ever able to place them. And so especially, and this is just even within our existing families, it's becoming a real burden for our families because there's not the guarantee that we're going to be able to have that space for them. So the idea for next year in switching the programming so that we would bring all of the students from the Foothills classroom with all of the teachers here, and then so this is all ages 3 to 6, all preschool in this school, and then moving the toddlers to, and we're calling it an alternate location because it's either the Foothills Church or we also have the opportunity to rent there's a beautiful house that's right next door to it that has a big wide open shop space. So one of those two, the fire inspector's coming to see that on Thursday to see whether or not that'll work. So some of the behind the scenes details. So right now we're just saying for the toddler program to move that off this piece so that we can keep all of our programming going, keep all of our families, address the needs of the waiting list, be able to, keep all the teachers and then have that
rainbow room
and add more rainbow room. So, but we're not, it's not a ton. We're going to go up to 16, which is what licensing is at the Foothills Church, and of course we're not yet licensed. We don't even know if we're going to enter into a lease agreement with the other one. But so we're really talking about these programming changes for a smaller number of children, but we really feel that that's going to streamline everything for our programming and for the school. So does that make sense? Sort of a big flip-flop.
How many families in the Rainbow Room right now have an older sibling?
Michael, I really need you to answer the admissions questions. Sorry, they're asking a lot of questions about numbers and how many families we have and who you're talking to, and I can answer in generalities, but she's got the specifics.
I was just wondering how many kids right now in the Rainbow Room have an older sibling?
8. Oh, 8. Incoming, there'll be 9, possibly 10. There's people on the wait list that have siblings as well. So if we did that, if we did not move, then Rainbow Room would be full of all siblings next year. Does that make sense?
Yeah. But then those people with siblings would have 2 drop-offs, right?
Yeah.
What about at the Foothills location? If the Foothills preschool stayed there, how many of those families have a little one that wouldn't need to be in the Rainbow Room?
Currently, don't have any. Yeah. However, can I just add something? There are several people on the wait list that are at the Foothills location. Those kiddos, the parents want to come here. So they're trying to get here as well. So.
And why is that? Because they have little ones in the rainbow?
Well, when we found out that what we're doing
again.
is we're competing against ourselves. We have a program here and we have a program there that's identical, but it's not. They want preschool here. You've got the trees, you've got this all set up for preschoolers at this location. So actually, Mark is not, but you're coming here next year anyway because of kindergarten.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Which was the other piece to be able
So right now, Foothills, all the kids once they reach, or all the children once they reach kindergarten age, come here, so they can be in the kindergarten program. So Parker and Willem would come here regardless. So Foothills is always losing their kindergartners, so the classrooms are made up of 3 and 4 year olds, which isn't an ideal model for that classroom.
So what we found is that we have a wait list even for preschool here. Some people choose that they don't want to go to Foothills. So they're like, well, we just really want to be on the wait list here. So they'll hold out for this location. preschool.
Have you found any or heard any numbers of how many families would drop the Rainbow Room if they have to do 2 drop-offs? So how many families would not send their younger one to the Rainbow Room and only start their younger one in the preschool here?
I think only one, but I don't know. I don't know what your situation is. I have your son.
Mm-hmm.
Well, actually, no, Beck will be here.
You're thinking,
No,
yeah.
so 0 at the moment.
I think that would be an interesting number to find out, because I think that is a huge possibility that instead of even signing your kid up for the Rainbow Room at age 2, that you would just wait and only start them when they turn 3 so that you can avoid the double drop-off. Well, then now the Rainbow Room dies essentially.
Well, we'd have it.
Right, but enrollment-wise, I mean, because I think a lot of parents are going to have a really hard time spending the kind of money and investing what it costs to attend here if they're having to go do multiple drop-offs every morning. That's a huge hassle. So instead of doing that, you would just wait until your kid was 3 and could come to the preschool room.
Possibly, but I don't know if that's the case.
Well, and one of the things that the board has talked about, which this would be an individual family piece, but to be able to have it so that families who were concerned about the multiple drop-offs could also drop their preschooler off up at Foothills, and then we could bring the van down, and then we could transport children. The Foothills families are already transported for aftercare and using the van, so it's something that we've already been doing. Not everybody's comfortable with their children being transported in the van, so that would be something that could be optional, but it is something that we could use. Is that something that you would be interested in, or would you think, no, I'm not going to?
No, I wouldn't.
And that's fair enough. I'm asking because
the car seat hassle. I mean, my kids are small, and so weight requirement, they are required to be in a car seat, and so even to drop the youngest one off myself there and then have to have Beck, the preschooler, I'd have to transfer his car seat every day with that.
we have car seats in the van, so, and then I know, Mark, you can actually speak to what you guys do.
I mean, it is an issue, and changing out car seats is a pain. But we have 2 seats that are dedicated to that. It's a short drive. It's not, the transition has been fine for the boys. It's been really good. I think it's actually, in some ways, it's positive. It kind of switches the day up a little bit. But that's certainly, I mean, it's a commitment to say, okay, we're going to buy a couple of car seats that are just for Great Beginnings.
Yeah.
Well, I think the school has bought.
Yeah, how many car seats do we have now? I know we
that
have
are professionally installed.
We just installed 2 new ones, 2 brand new ones.
And Child Care Connections oversees all the installation, and they sign off on.
And that might
sure
be an
that it's
easy
all.
solution to that. To having
Mm-hmm.
parents have to take on that
just
cost.
have the bus loaded with car seats.
But it also is, I think, really special because I've had it twice where I've had siblings in both rooms. And dropping them off together and having them going to school together and having the younger one see the older one and the older one see the younger one. And when someone's maybe not having a good day, or I don't know, I think there's something really special about having both those age groups in the same place. And I wouldn't want to lose that kind of special thing that's happening here right now with separating them. Because I've really loved having them together. And I think that they love being together too. And there's something, the young learn from the old and the old learn from the young, kind of the Montessori way. So this wouldn't affect me, but I have loved having that be a part of our experience here. So.
Thank
I have
you
a question.
for that. Yeah.
Isn't there a vacant lot just adjacent to this?
Oh my gosh, I'm happy to show you all that. I feel like I've spammed everybody with letters in this whole northern part of
We
town.
dream about that.
Yes,
lot.
we look into it.
That's owned by the Hemingways.
The Hemingways.
We even talked about calling it Hemingway.
My stepdad's named Hemingway, and I even went to a party I knew they were going to be at and brought my stepdad in order to try to get in there to be like, hey, we're family. You want to
And the land across the way, so it's failed too.
Well, the land across
He
the
used
way.
to always
He said
walk.
that
He
he'd give
used
us
to
$1 million
walk around
for-
and around, but now I think he's
No,
home.
him and his wife are in a retirement
So we should keep trying. But
I think it's worth pursuing. I mean,
Well,
that
we
seems
have.
like the easiest.
There's a whole
If
website
you
that has
yeah,
the
if you
history
have
of
any
all
ends
the,
with them.
so I'm happy to, but
They're
yes.
just not selling right now still, or it's just so expensive.
His daughter lives there.
No one around us will sell to us right now, except for the gentleman across the street will sell us that field for $1 million. And he's 94 years old, and he came over and we made him a pie, and we were hoping to woo him into selling us for something reasonable, and he said $1 million is his price. And that's not ours.
But any additions to the building, is that allowed?
It's not. We are completely, what we're at for licensing is 52 children in this building, and we cannot exceed that.
Can't build up or anything?
We can build up, but we can't have more than 52 children. And it's the number of flushes that we're allowed to have. And in fact, we had a whole year where we monitored the water pump with Allied Engineering to see the flow rate, because we were arguing that most of our children don't flush anyway. Just saying that it was just fine.
It's a rule.
But so they were able to, they kept us at 52, but they have said that we cannot exceed that number. Even though square footage, we're fine. You make a good point. I mean, we've got enough space on this piece of land, but they won't.
Is it a septic on this building, or is it?
It's septic.
It is
It's a septic, and because those are the restraints of the septic, they won't, we've got a conditional use permit on this piece of property, and they won't grant us one for a larger septic system. So we're stuck with these constraints despite, if anybody comes up with a new idea, I'm open.
Is there enough room at Foothills to add a second rainbow ring?
So 2 of them up there, or in addition to?
Like keep the preschool and add a.
So basically you have 2 campuses, is that what you're saying? Or one preschool with the toddler room here and then preschool with the toddler room there?
So the setup that we have right now for Foothills is just sort of one classroom rather than 2 different things. So just sort of in how it's set up, there wouldn't be a way to be able to do that. Mm-hmm. But additionally, I think that just to sort of back up a little bit, the benefits for children to do the preschool down here far outweigh that scenario, because that's where all of our teachers will have all the same resources for that age group. They'll be able to work together. They'll be able to, for our faculty to be split for the same age group on different campuses is different than if they're doing different programming. So I think that that's the piece for, wanting to have that really authentic Montessori classroom that's ages 3 to 6, and being able to keep the 6-year-olds here so that they can have the kindergarten experience here, so that you can have the children in the classroom who are the youngers and the olders, as opposed to just having the 3 and 4. Am I speaking articulate?
No, and we're licensed for 16 up there. Mm-hmm. So, we would fill up that space already. Mm-hmm. So if I go off the wait list for toddler next year, and I set myself at 16 right now, we're full. We're already full at this time. So,
Miss Deb and Miss Mari want to go out there?
Well, and so that's where now, so our board's made the decision about switching the structures and the sort of facility, and now the teachers are the ones who are looking at all the programming. So in trying to do it. So they just finished completing a survey that we sent out, and so the survey, they elected each other to be able to be on the programming. Sort of leadership group, and so they are the ones who are going to determine how the programming goes, based on, because they're experts. They're the ones who know how to best do this for the children and for this setup. So what they're talking about for this school are whether it's going to be 2 classrooms and 3 classrooms, and then Deb and Mari are talking about, their list is a good one for what they want to do. So, and it is true that while the change is difficult, Deb for years has been asking for more space, more resources. What they've done in that tiny little classroom is absolutely spectacular, but they are stressed for space. Mm-hmm. There's no storage. There's a very, very small area that they're in. And so it does provide for so many of those different pieces that are there. I think the hard part of it is the same thing that you just mentioned, this is also their family, and this is where they go in order to be able to be with, they're close with all the other teachers. And so, trying to look at what's going to be best for the overall school, for the overall programming is, and how we can best do that in order to be able to also meet the needs of our families and our teachers. So as of right now, that's what our teachers are working with and how to put it together. I can't guarantee any teachers for next year because they haven't signed their letters of intent yet for coming back. And we usually, historically, we bring back about 90% of our teachers because you being here for 10 years, it's really a beautiful community and a great place to work and a great place to be. You guys also feel that as families, and it's really authentic for what we have with each other. So we hope that they're all going to come back, but it's not a guarantee.
I think Deb and Mari will be happy once they know where they're going, and that's Deb's problem now. She just wants to be able to.
Right. She's like, which one is it? Is it
yeah. So
is it
just
the
feel
house or
known
the
for
house?
her is what.
I would just think like same thing with having your other kid off there. I don't know how it was for you guys, but it felt like when we were like in there, but on a wait list here, we're like, oh no, we really want to be at like the mothership and not at like a satellite.
I thought about that a lot because it's the culture that really attracted us here, and so I was really interested in how that was going to transfer and how that was going to play out, and it's been great. And I think that speaks to the leadership because that culture there is very much, and it's been interesting. Aftercare is not the same as the regular day, but I've seen them at both locations, and that's really nice, and so I trust that because that was definitely an initial concern.
Mark, that's kind of, once you can get over that, the fact that it's not here, and I've never had anybody say that they don't like it. Once they're there, they love it, and it's beautiful, and it's just, people come in with this perception of, but.
And that speaks to a strong culture because it is hard to do that, have multiple locations and really maintain that, but it definitely is being done.
Yeah, but once you get there, everybody that gets there just loves the cozy and the warm feeling of that classroom. It's a great extension. If we were to ask for anything else, we'd build something, but that's a great B.
When I first read about the separation or the switch, I was, to be honest, was very disappointed because Cooper, my youngest, is on the wait list for the Rainbow next year. So I was like, 2 drop-offs. They're not in this school together. But then I was talking about it with my husband, and it's about Deb. Like, we just want Cooper with
think so too.
with Deb. So, it is going to be hard. We live right here on Spring Hill, so we're really lucky that it's not going to be too hard for us for 2 drop-offs if Cooper does get in there, but I can see for a lot of families that it's going to be difficult to have that division.
So. I think the hard part would be for you guys if Miss Deb didn't want to go. Then it would be really hard to sell the Rainbow Room to people because different place, different teachers, all that. But if she and Miss Mari were going, I think it's a lot easier.
Yeah, for sure.
Some parents to send their kids.
That is, Deb wants to do what's going to be best for those kids. That's where her heart is. So that's the piece of just, having the conversation and going on with it. She has, the amount of knowledge that she has and the amount of love that she has is so authentic. And as I was saying, remember, this was going to be the end of Great Beginnings when this started. And then when you've got somebody that's remarkable like that, and honestly, I can say that for so many of our staff, but that's one of the things that as parents, you really authentically fall in love with those people, but they earn it and they deserve it completely all the way through. So yes, Deb's only going to put her name on if it's real Great Beginnings. And that's one of the things that, that we wouldn't want to put our name on it if it wasn't real Great Beginnings either. So. Is that fair to say for her? I know. I was like, she should be here. I'm sure she's right here. Yes, I'm sure she's here.
She's not. She's been texting me because she can't hear.
Okay.
Or she can't see it.
So when do you expect to know if it's going to be the church or the house?
We've got our next board meeting on February 15th, and so the board's going to vote on it then. Like I said, I'm gathering information like crazy right now so that the board can understand sort of the parameters of that. And then the re-enrollment letter goes out to parents on February 20th so that we're able to say to families, sort of from this level, here's what we're doing. So, those are our dates that we're driving toward as fast as we can.
I wonder if it wouldn't be easier to sell if it was in a second home atmosphere versus the church. Because I think that's what's so great about this building is it feels like a home. I don't know, just a thought. It might have more similarities to this campus, but it might be easier for Deb to create a similar environment in an actual house versus the church.
I was also pleasantly surprised with how there's no feeling of a church, whether that's your thing or not. That's not ours, and that was. So I was I was kind of skeptical, and I was skeptical of that, and it doesn't feel like it at all. But for some people, I think it's a valid point, at least to ask.
Just for new families coming in, so it doesn't seem as different.
It is homey up there. I don't know if you've ever
I
seen
almost
it.
think the church is more homey than the house.
It's a beautiful space. It really
Even though the
is.
house is cool, but
the house is cool.
You walk in and it's almost like a warehouse. And that's probably where the toddlers would be because then the house part is upstairs.
Oh.
And I don't think they could. It's a really cool space, and Deb would make it really nice. But the church might be homier.
It's just different. I mean,
Well, that's what Deb is worried about. That she's already thinking of. She's been talking to her son, who's an architect, and she has all these plans.
Yeah, that would be tough.
I've only been to the church for the Christmas.
Right, and nothing happens in the
it-
sanctuary except for that.
Oh, so it's like
And it
an
looks so
individual
different.
It's
in the back,
it's
and
the
it's
kitchen
really
and the
completely
rooms.
closed off. So it really.
And is there a playground?
Mhm, There's a playground in the back. Mm-hmm.
And the idea is that we're going to move all the toddler equipment to whatever the alternate location is so that we can have that playground so that it'll be toddler specific for it. But if you want to see it, for example, right now, I mean, all you'd have to do is just call Michael and we can give you a tour. That's up there so that you can see it with children in it and what it looks like now. And
I
they're
was just
bigger, but it is, you can
envisioning
see
them
the whole thing.
in
No.
like where the play is.
Oh, in that sanctuary?
Yeah.
No, yeah.
No, it's separate. And just for the
That's
feel
good.
of it, I mean, it's a log structure, and so it just doesn't feel like that. I would be just personally a little resistant to that, but it doesn't feel like it at all. It's
It feels like a home.
Yeah, totally.
The kitchen's in there. They can do baking right
They made
in the
wontons
classroom.
today.
What's that?
They made wontons today for Chinese New Year.
And they're gonna have a small toilet.
Yeah. We'll take this toilet.
This one can go up.
And then the playground is a little bit larger than this one. Is that true?
There are a couple different adaptations that we're talking about making. So
Okay.
that's some of the information that we're gathering for the meeting. Andrea is also on our board of directors, so that's but part of it is making sure that we've got a good solid fence because Spring Hill Road is significant. So we've got a couple of different ways that we want to make sure that we're doing fencing. But so but then they also, as it is right now and how they use it, there's a fenced in area, but then there's also a huge field and then that huge parking lot. So there are bikes up there that they can ride around on and being able to play games out there. So just in talking with Deb, she's even already started to think about, we could have a couple of kids who would go out at certain times. We could start to rotate through so that we could be able to take advantage of the big field space, but then have it with a smaller, because of course toddlers have that lower ratio and we maintain that ratio. So yeah, but they've got a lot of land up there to run on. So.
Can there be 16 kids at the house too, or is that zoned for more kids?
We haven't even, the fire inspector's coming tomorrow in order to be able to look at licensing. So that would be that's a whole different step that's there. Because the other thing that the board's also looking for that with is that we have a lot of our community who is very interested in us going up into the older grades. And so one of the things that we're also exploring is doing a doing a modern one-room schoolhouse that would be in that space. So that would be 1st through 8th grade, and it would really replicate the same piece that Spring Hill Community School has right now for that. In doing a whole bunch of research recently, the modern one-room schoolhouse has apparently been reinvented by Silicon Valley as a micro school. So all of a sudden they've invented this brand new idea of putting 15 kids in this in one-room schoolhouse with 2 different teachers in a small individualized environment. They're calling it revolutionary. If you are from Montana or you've been here, you're like, it's actually been working for quite some time. But anyway, so be it. We have so many of our alumni families who, for various reasons, the public schools aren't necessarily a good fit for their child, either that being the geographical proximity and having something else up here, or else just with Bozeman Public Schools not necessarily fitting what they're looking for their children. So again, this was where we were sort of dreaming with this big campus and how we're going to do everything. I was at Comic-Q, which is our architecture firm right now, and I was visiting with them and talking about what we have, and they said, oh, you guys are doing the same thing that the co-op did. The co-op had to have their one location, and then they had to rent a whole bunch of different spaces, and they had to put different locations. Their bakery was here, and their different things were here, because they couldn't get into the market either. Once they had everything set, then they were able to make the case for donors. They were able to then do what's going up on Main Street right now. So it's not entirely unfamiliar for what's happening in this community, but so that's the other thing that we're also looking at for that house that's next to Foothills, is whether or not we would want to house that there, or toddlers, and so that's the information that we're gathering.
So for next year, though, there'll be kindergarten in the year same as this year.
Oh yeah.
And that would actually continue, because that's the
Okay.
3 to 6 Montessori. So it would be
Okay.
kindergarten that would stay here.
Okay.
So if we're doing the one-room schoolhouse, that would be 1st through 8th grade. So, which is the same as what they have at Spring Hill Community. So.
Do you guys know how many kindergartners are going to be next year? Do you have an idea?
I'm guessing, but I have to get the enrollment.
It's a fun game she plays.
She's always like,
I know.
What do you think?
I know 2. No, I know a few more. Yeah. It's about what it was this year, 7 or 8.
Any other lots or land that you're looking at, or is that just kind of?
So that still is ongoing, right? So we're trying to right now rent some spaces in order to be able to keep programming going.
Wait for that piece.
But yes, exactly. So if you hear of anything, if you know of anybody, we just met with one of these groups, because we've been meeting with people in the community and sort of sharing what we have going on here, not only just with families, but also just outside members of the community, previous boards of directors, alumni. We had an alumni family who put us on some snowmobiles, and he was like, there's stuff up here. And I was like, I don't really see our kids in this, but anything. We're just trying to think outside of the box for anything. So if you have anything, please share.
If this house went for sale,
we would buy it tomorrow.
I mean, and it did come up like 7 or 8 years ago, and I was here, and I'm like, Victoria, there's our toddler, and she's like, yeah, and we had the first right of refusal, and the board didn't act fast enough, and it went away too quickly, and it sold. So that was the biggest regret as far as how we had an opportunity, and it went too fast.
Do we still have a right of first refusal on it? Or is it worth exploring that?
We don't.
I don't know. The people who live there, they work from home, but if they want to move, we would to chat with them now.
We could bring them bread.
Yeah, no problem.
I don't know if they love us.
It sort of depends on how the wind's blowing and whether or not they've got a conference call for whether they love us, but.
if you guys do ever have extra space for some reason, like say you're thinking of renting a bigger space and you say, well, we don't quite have enough to fill it too, or the school house isn't working out. I think there always is. It seems like from that 1 to 2 year age, there are also so many people looking for things too. That would be, I don't know, it's another whole ball of worms or whatever that phrase is.
Well, and I did it.
I think it is a ball.
We know what you're talking about.
I brought it up to the board because there is something to be said about there's no infant care in this valley, really. And the reason is because, frankly, the numbers don't pan out. It would have to, for infant care, the sort of back of the envelope numbers is that tuition would be $1,800 a month, which is just obscene in having to try to do that. But so we've talked with our board about once we have more families and we have a larger scale, that as a nonprofit organization, because we really feel that our job is to be able to support families and to be able to support them from from birth all the way through high school if we can, and be able to have this one place where families can go to where they can trust the community for doing the best for their children. But that would be an area where we've talked about we would just subsidize that. So if we get into the place where we can subsidize it, it's something that we've already talked about wanting to do.
Doesn't Little Tree do have infant care? They're one of the few places.
And they're really hard to get into.
Yeah, but we obviously need more of it. So, yeah.
What is your current budget or like financial capabilities for buying a new property, or is that really?
It's sort of
on donors, or is there an endowment that?
We don't have an endowment right now. So what we do have is that we've done is we've built out a forecasting model that we've done so that we can sort of change different variables and to be able to look out for about 5 years into the future. Because one of the things that's really difficult about any sort of expansion is that in the first year, it's hard to fill the classrooms. It can be hard to generate enough revenue. So you have to look at projections that are going to be approximately 5 years out in order to be able to hold that. Yellowstone Bank has looked at our projections. They think that we have a really solid business plan and going forward. And so they've given us financing for whatever it is that we want to go through. Now, that being said, whatever it is keeps changing for the land that we're like, hey, but this one, do you like this one? Do you like this one? So we have had to build several different forecasting models as our options keep changing. So the good news is that we've learned to be incredibly flexible. However, it sure would be great if we could just, start to find a home that we could be in. So
why is this decision being made now? Because Foothills is only, 2 years old? Mm-hmm. So when that was established, why was this not explored at that time to, make this be for the 3 to 5 year olds and have the 2-year-olds up there?
Because our waiting list was in the preschool at the time.
And toddler has grown so we've had toddler for 4 years. The first year I was out with the kid who was in Europe, but the first year we weren't really sure. We had a lot of feedback from parents like, this is going to be horrible. Why are you going into toddlers right now? And there was a couple that were like, maybe. And it's just grown to something really, really wonderful. And it's great. We thought 10 toddlers, that's great. But now again, like we've got such a big long wait list. 2 years ago, we didn't really anticipate that it was going to continue to grow like this. I didn't have that 2 years ago. I didn't have 8 to 9 siblings filling the space early on. So.
And that's one of those things, it might not work out, and then they can come back, right? And that's, I guess, the beauty, as some of the board members have pointed out, of renting, right? So maybe next year will be a flop, and what did we do? And so then, come on back.
I don't think it'll be a flop.
I don't either. But that's the beauty, that we can't. That's an option. We could come back.
Yeah, it's a very safe way for us to be able to explore different options without putting the entire school at jeopardy. So, and being able to build this and see exactly how it's going to go.
Mm-hmm.
Did one of the emails say that there might be a first, second grade as soon as next year?
We would open the whole thing for 1st through 8th if we're doing it next year.
Oh, so it's all or nothing.
And one of the reasons to do the whole thing at the same time is because in just doing the lower grades, some of the families, when we were trying it for last year, some of the families were really nervous and saying, well, if you're only doing 1st through 3rd grade, where's my guarantee that I'm going to have a 4th grade?
Switch midway through
in
school.
In which case, I should just go to Hawthorne anyway. Yeah. And if we're embracing the idea of the one-room schoolhouse that can go all the way up and doing it so that we'd have a lower school and an upper school within that piece, then there isn't that same pressure. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, and that's where we're getting a lot of interest from outside of our community that's outside of sort of this room. Michael got a phone call this morning to say, we've got a 3rd grader and a 5th grader, and we said we're not going to make the decision until February 15th, and they said they're calling the day after President's Day in order to find out whether or not they've got space for their kids. So that's also what's happening within this community for people who are looking. So that's why we've said if we're doing it, we're doing the whole thing.
So once you get the first few people in there, then it's hard to make a commitment to be the first family into a place like that. But I think once you have a first family in, then I think the dominoes kind of fall to fill it up.
And it is interesting. I've started two schools before, so and they've both been, and one is a middle school and high school, and then one's a high school. And it is, you bring up a good point that the first families to sign up are sort of pioneering families. There's a different mindset in saying, I want to be first. I want to see, what these teachers have. And there's a different dynamic. The sort of first years, you have to be a little more flexible, and we're trying this, and are you up for this? And we're going here, and we're doing that. And for some families, that's not their process. And they'll wait for the more established, like, tell me what you're about, and now we'll follow suit. So that is very astute for how that sort of develops as it goes through. So. Any other questions? From behind the curtain?
Yeah. Not to bring it up again, but when was the
please.
last attempt on the lot next door? Was it like a year ago?
I will happily give you all their information and we can try again. Let's see. I write them a letter. I write everybody around us. I've written them a letter, multiple per year. I think the last time was last spring that I would have written them a letter. You went over to go visit her. And you knocked on the door. You bring cookies to all.
A couple years ago, but see, you have to understand the daughter lives there.
The parents own it.
It's not in her best interest to leave. She likes living there.
This one's not. This one's. I forget his name.
Which property? Are you talking about the one closest to Spring Hill or off of Stonegate?
Off of Stonegate.
Well, but don't you get to it off of Spring Hill?
Oh, yeah,
you do.
Yeah, that's their
driveway is off of Spring Hill.
Yeah.
The one
It's a
right in
big
the corner. Okay.
circular. This is where the original him.
She can stay in her house, though. We just want the land.
It looks like a totally barren.
Yeah, it is.
Oh, yeah, the
There's no
teachers just sit in the
trees or
playground. They're
anything.
like, that
Yeah,
would be perfect.
Like I say, he used to walk it with his black lab,
It seems so odd.
like a truck, and then. But for years now, it just sits there.
Can they subdivide it? Are they allowed?
I would think.
They could sell you the back property or something?
That's what I offered when I sat down with them. And then so the gentleman said, I'll think of you when we put together our will. And the wife said, no, he won't. Well, don't try. So, yeah, but their daughter lives
Who
there.
do we think's gonna pass first?
Maybe that's it. So, and again, that sort of, these micro steps that we're talking about for next year, that's where I would really, any ideas that you guys have, this is absolutely what we need from our community, are all of these great ideas for, we can rent and put together programmings, we can guarantee spectacular teachers, we can guarantee that we love your children and we love this environment and we love the school more than you can possibly imagine. We know we need a bigger space. So if there's anything you got, we want to know about it. So, yeah. Yeah, and I'm happy to walk over with you. We can go knock again. We can bring some cookies over there.
Seems like it would be hard to say no to these. They're fresh baked goods.
We'll keep trying. Maybe that's the problem.
Maybe we need to bring the kiddos. She loves our yurt. That's because I spoke to the daughter. She said she loves to look at the yurt. It's really, I would say she's in her 50s, single, no children. Maybe things have changed since last year, but I don't think so. Yeah. But I don't think that she would love to leave. She loves the area. She seems to love us. She said that she can hear us over there and all good. But,
Before we wrap up, is there anything else that any of you guys wanted to make sure to say? I think I've done more of the talking than I was expecting.
Did you talk about how it would look like here? We're still figuring out like classrooms and this has always been licensed for 52. So whether it's 2 classrooms and then we pull out kiddos into the space, we don't know yet.
And then I'll give you guys all a call and follow up with it. So if you think of some questions tonight, when you get home, we can talk about it tomorrow. So.
How are the teachers feeling about the change?
It depends on. I think change is hard. Like I said, Deb and Mari don't really want to leave.
Yeah.
Because of the
Family
social
aspect.
part.
Yeah.
Well, right. But yet I think Deb's excited for more space. And so every Monday I'm in there and it's small. And that kind of get tired because it's just, I don't know, me personally. So I think just having the space and having the kitchen and being able to move around will be really nice. And so I think she's excited for that. It's just the change she's afraid of. And then Michael and Mackenzie, the same thing. They have their little thing going on up there.
Yes,
And they feel pretty set. And so I think all the teachers that are here are great with that. I'm really excited for it just because I see the differences between the preschool classrooms, and I'm really excited to have all the preschoolers under one roof for the consistency, and then to have more space for the toddlers. But I understand what you're saying for sure.
Will they have additional support staff up there too? Okay.
They'll hire another teacher, and then I think they're talking about having 2 office.
Yeah, that we're
up there.
going to split our administration in half and have it so that we'll have them at both.
And kind of have days at each school. So we're present at both campuses.
Is the school committed to being on like the north side of town, like Spring Hill area? Just because I think most of the families are on the north side. But have you explored elsewhere too?
And initially the board, when they started the expansion effort, said they wanted to stay within 2 miles of this existing campus for the multiple drop-off reason, right? So if there were going to be those pieces. But then as, it became harder and harder to try to look for land, then at one point we were looking at everything from something next to Mount Ellis to south of MSU to things that were pretty far west, sort of where the second high school is going into. So we started to look all over the place. And it was actually Yellowstone Bank that reined the board back in at that point and said, you need to stay to the north. This is absolutely where you're geographically located, where, and a lot of our families, we used to have that map up and showed that our families were drive from all over Bozeman. So we, can tell that people are driving for this piece, but this is where we're focusing for right now. So a little bit vague to say they might open up that can of worms if there is another beautiful opportunity.
Ball of worms.
Ball of worms right there. But ideally we'd love to have something right here. So yes.
We thought about bringing Colt to the Foothills classroom, and I was so charmed by that space. I just think it's an awesome asset to have. I support. I think it's awesome. Just to make a positive comment.
Thank you. I remember.
Did you look at it? I can't remember if we toured it.
Yeah, we toured it.
Oh, I wasn't here. You went
I
over
went
to
up there.
get it. Yeah. Once you get into that space,
It's very charming.
It's really
It's
sweet.
I feel like having toddlers there would be a really nice fit.
I do too, actually. I think it would be really, really pretty.
Yeah.
And really sweet and really cozy. And having 1st through 8th there, I probably not.
No,
But
not
I
that
think
church
it's
space.
for toddlers. I think it would be a really warm and just a sweet place. And then you take everything that's there, and even the little log house, playhouse. I don't know how it would work, but if you bring that up there, I think even that log house fits up there. I think it's going to be really cute and really, really sweet. And if the church ever wants to sell us that piece of property,
And they'll rent us that property.
What's that?
The land that they own, they'll rent to us if we wanted to put another yurt or something.
Build
Yeah. Yeah. They would like to partner with us for long term. So last year, and also last year, we didn't know how it was going to go. It was our first year and partnering with them, and after working with them for a year, it's a really lovely partnership to be
It
able
seems
to
like
do.
a win-win for them. It's
Mhm.
additional revenue when it's not being used. And
Their congregation,
Exactly.
what I've learned, has gotten smaller and smaller and smaller. And also, they have elders which act as board members. Like, I'm like, oh, okay, so this is what it means to have the elders, because they meet and they decide something and then they come back. So it's kind of like they have a board as well. So.
maybe we look for a place for the church. We just
We'll
we found a great place for the church.
That, yes, we have definitely, you're not the first person to say that. We'll leave it at that.
You never know.
Exactly.
You
You
never
never know. So this buys us a little bit of time and continues with all the beautiful stuff we're doing. So. Well, I know that that we said that we would end at 7, so I want to be respectful of that time. For that, are there any other questions though before I put you back onto icy, snow-covered roads?
So what is the budget for a school? Like, is it based on per student that could fit in it, or?
For our overall budget and how we put it together. So, I mean, it's a nonprofit organization. So but in terms of how our finances are different from a traditional nonprofit organization. So if you're looking at, for example, Fork and Spoon, and you're looking at theirs, they don't have any way to be able to generate any revenue beyond, or they've limited ways beyond straight donations. We do have a tuition structure that all of you are aware of. And so our tuition covers our operations. So we always make sure that those two pieces are there. So any fundraising or any donations that we do are for any of the extras that we have at the school. So that's any of the things that you'll see for if we're going to put up a new swing set or we're going to do something. So the expansion for any of the costs for the expansion effort right now are not being driven by tuition. So that your tuition is going directly to operations and directly for what's happening with the children right now. Does that answer your question? Is that what you were?
Yeah, I was just wondering what your budget would be. Like, if we need, if it could fit another 52 students, we could pay this per month, or.
And that's, the sort of economies of scale as you get larger do help in some really significant ways in terms of lowering tuition for families and then increasing salaries for teachers. So that's another thing that we support from both ends. It's a great thing to be able to do, but we don't want to grow to a place where we lose that magic of great beginnings. So that's the delicate balance that we always do. So. Good. All right. Well, I really thank you guys for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah. Feel free to talk to any of us. We'll answer more questions at any time. So. Go back out in the snow.
In Wiley, so we're just off the.
Oh, Lord.